Welcome in. Kyle Larson ends up winning the Cookout 500 for the first round of the playoffs. Young Money has made it to the next round. And again, Darlington proves why it is one of the greatest races in the Cup circuit. This is a race recap, a race review here at Darlington for the first round of the round of 16 playoffs. Let's get into it. Welcome in. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful Sunday evening. If you're watching us or early Monday morning on Labor Day, or enjoying just maybe your whole Labor Day weekend as well, Young Money, Kyle Larson, the guy that I predicted on my playoff predictions to win today's race, in fact, does win the race. He finds a way to be victorious against fellow right against the wall rider Tyler Reddick and comes away with the first victory of the round of playoffs. Last year, the round of 16 was won by everybody not in the playoffs. Kyle Larson says, enough of those shenanigans. I'm going to end that for the very first race this year. And it goes all along with my point that I just thought Kyle Larson was a driver that was just so sneaky. Haven't heard a lot about him. Haven't heard a lot about Hendrick Motorsports. They haven't done a whole lot, but it just seemed like Kyle Larson was just consistent, and then finds a way to pounce drivers like Denny Hamlin having a possible loose wheel. We're not really sure. Over 10 playoff drivers involved in incidents. And first of all, let's do the race review and let's talk about Darlington. This is why Darlington is a crown jewel for NASCAR as a whole. It is the most technical and difficult track, in my opinion, that they race on the entire year. It is tremendous. I love watching Darlington races because these drivers are put on the edge on every single lap. You have two drivers trying to win this race, and the place where you have to get speed is 2 inches from the wall, and they're both hitting the wall trying to get the most out they can, and they're not the only one. I mean, there's going to be 20, 30 times that drivers hit the wall, get that famous Darlington stripe at the track that is too tough to tame, and we saw that tonight. We saw pit crews have trouble putting wheels on. We saw jacks fall down. We saw drivers make mistakes. We saw non-playoff drivers try to block 4 or 5 times for some ungodly known reason. The opening round at Darlington is a perfect start to the playoffs. It is a great race. The 500 miles is a true test of endurance, and you see things where Denny Hamlin dominates round 1 and 2. You see drivers like Martin Truex Jr. work their way up. Kyle Busch work their way up. You see other drivers kind of slide back down, fall at the end of it. You know, Bubba Wallace ends up spinning out at the end of one of the stages, finds a way to get into the top 10 again. All those different things. I mean, Joey Logano was left for dead. They were underneath the hood of that car, checking the toe on it multiple times. He gets a top 12 in this race. This race has absolutely everything in it, and is one of the reasons why Darlington is a crown jewel track. Darlington is one of the tracks on my bucket list. I'm hoping to go very, very soon, because the thing that it does, the entertainment that it puts on, and the test to the drivers, the teams, and the treat that it gave to this sold-out grandstand tonight is why we want to watch races at Darlington Speedway. So A+ on that. We needed that reprieve from what we've been seeing recently in NASCAR with some of the road courses, and we got that tonight. So congratulations, Darlington. Congratulations, fans, more importantly. What a tremendous race. And it's one of those things that maybe if you don't appreciate how hard it is to race there, then maybe you don't give it an A+ yourself. But watching these drivers struggle, watching these drivers trying to get every square inch between fast and wrecking is one of the reasons why this is just an awesome race. And we saw mistakes made today. I mean, things happen in this race. The pressure now on these drivers when it comes to the playoffs. It's there. I mean, unfortunately for Kevin Harvick, who still had a bonehead move, he was in position to possibly win this race until a caution comes out because Tyler Reddick, for some ungodly known reason, downshifts twice, 3 times going into turn 4 to try to make the pit road that he was never going to make. And then Kevin Harvick couldn't could have avoided that, like William Byron did, who ended up finishing 4th. Pits, just all kinds of stuff. All kinds of craziness happens in the playoffs. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first being Kyle Larson advances with the win. He will make it on to the next round. He was probably going to make it anyway, but definitely want to be a driver, want to be a fan of a driver that has solidified himself into the next round, and Kyle Larson has done that. Right now, this reminds me kind of Kyle Busch in like 2019, where he was really, really good for most of the year, but nobody talked about him the same way that he had previously. He wasn't as dominant as before. This is only the 3rd win for Kyle Larson, but to me, he's been really consistent. To me, even going back to like Darlington this past year, where he got wrecked by Ross Chastain, and then the next race at Kansas, he gets wrecked by Denny Hamlin. This season could look a whole lot different for Kyle Larson than what we have seen so far. And now he's putting it together. Cliff Daniels, tremendous on the radio, again, telling him that do not make the mistake. Tyler Reddick has to get what's already yours. And Kyle Larson does, in fact, keep the lead the entire time there in that last 40-lap run to get the victory. A lot of things happen in this race. Martin Truex Jr. worked his way up through the race. He ended up having a loose wheel, had to come back down during green flag pit stops, which was a lap or to 2-lap penalty at times. He found himself in the back and never, ever showed the same speed after having that incident with the loose wheel. Speaking of loose wheel, Denny Hamlin, the guy that was leading probably 60 to 70% of this race, won the first 2 stages, reported himself having a loose wheel. Crew chief Chris Gabehart said, I do not see any signs of a loose wheel. Denny Hamlin got back on the radio and said, no, I know for a fact that we had a loose wheel. He does not get a top 10. He, I believe, was on the tail end of the final of the standings of this race. We'll look at that here in just a little bit as well. Just want to kind of go into the highlights of this. Chris Bell, the guy that was up front for this race on the pole, he was really, really fast. He was in the top 5 for most of this race. His pit crew had a misstep. That's the one where the jack fell down. Lost about 5 seconds during green flag stops. Everything was hunky-dory, and then slammed into the wall. And you could immediately tell that this car was never the same after he hit the wall. So he ended up going to the back of the pack as well. The biggest bonehead move of this race is by far by Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman, who has been absolutely horrific since coming back from his back injury, which is funny because at the beginning of the year, he was the only driver before being hurt that had the longest top 10 streak. I mean, a lot of these drivers were really struggling, and Alex Bowman was leading the points at one time before being penalized and then ended up breaking his back. Not that it was any fault of his own, but during a dirt race where he was hit, and he just has not been the same. And he got on Twitter and said that he apologized. He was tired of being blocked, and then he got blocked, or so he decided to block Suarez, and then Suarez wrecked him. Suarez did not wreck you. You blocked him low. He tried to go high. You blocked him high, and then you put him in. You both put each other into the wall. That was like some of the that's some ARCA shit right there that was witnessed and performed by Alex Bowman, and it's not been a great year for him. He is by far the least successful driver at Hendrick Motorsports, and at some point, I'm not sure that Rick Hendrick just doesn't go, is this what we really want? Or is this like a lifeblood, I don't know, like tribute that he gave to Dale Earnhardt Jr.? I'm not sure what's going on there. But Alex Bowman, a rough year compounded by ruining a good race. I mean, he was in the top 10. This was a guy that was like 36 at one point and worked himself into the top 10. And instead of allowing Daniel Suarez, who had a run, it's not like he was just being a dick. He had a good run. He decides to block him twice, puts himself in the wall, puts Daniel Suarez into the wall, and causes a late caution. And then the final big incident was Todd Gilliland and Rowdy. I'm not sure that Kyle Busch knew that they were three wide. Gilliland was in the middle. Teammate Austin Dillon was at the top of Kyle Busch, and Kyle just kind of came up and hit him in the side. It didn't look like it was too aggressive or too punishing. I mean, Kyle Busch initiated it, and he was the one that would have been hit on the right rear quarter panel, which typically would be the driver that spins out versus Gilliland. But Gilliland just got that speed wobble. He ends up wrecking. He takes out Hamlin with a little bit of damage. Bell got creamed. And then Michael McDowell had a bad night, put to rest by his car being absolutely junked after that one. So, again, a lot of playoff drivers in incidences today. And that's not, again, getting back to Bubba Wallace spinning out. Joey Logano knocking the toe out of the car. I mean, all kinds of things happen in this race. Ross Chastain fighting the entire first stage to stay on the lead lap. It was a ton of things going on in this race. So let's go ahead and look at today's race results. Again, Kyle Larson with the win. Tyler Reddick consistently fast all night long. And this guy right here, I'm telling you, Chris Buescher, if you do not think that Chris Buescher is a legit championship contender, then you simply aren't paying attention. RFK is here to stay, at least for this year. Chris Buescher is consistently fast, week in, week out, doing it at the perfect time. He has the number one set of momentum out of any NASCAR driver in the field today. His teammate finishes sixth / car owner, Brad Keselowski, carrying that as well. Ross Chastain, a miserable day, turned into a pot of gold, getting a top 5. William Byron worked his way through the pack, a consistent finish for him. Doesn't need to do anything to put himself out of contention. He did just that with a nice finish. Bubba Wallace was 7th. So RFK right here, 2 and 7. They do their thing. JGR, the other 4 Toyotas in the standings, all involved in some type of incident. And you'll see that as we go through the finish. Chase Elliott with some solid speed. Ryan Blaney got mired in the back of the pack, and then a lot of those drivers pitted. He took advantage of it. He was in the top 10 for most of the race, but could not do anything in traffic. Still comes away with a good finish. Eric Jones, one of his best track, if not his best track, gets a top 10. Kyle Busch, 11th. Joey Logano making chicken salad out of chicken crap. He gets a top 12 with a car that was not top 12 worthy. And the defending driver, championship driver, does enough to salvage what was going to be a really, really bad day. And he was on the outside of the points looking in, and now is doing fine. The rest of the drivers, Allmendinger, Almirola, Chase Briscoe, Ricky Stenhouse, playoff driver, Hocevar. There is Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick with some bad luck. But Truex, the top JGR driver. Bell limps into 23rd. Hamlin limps into 25th. And then down here, you find yourself Michael McDowell, on the outside looking in. And we'll go ahead and look at the standings. Hopefully they are up to date. I'm not sure that they will be. We shall see. No, we're not there. No, these might be. No, I don't think they are. No, because Kyle Busch is not in 5th. He's like 20 points up now. So we'll look at that during the weekly show and get back to the playoffs. But again, a great, great race. Something that I just thoroughly enjoyed. And I hope Kansas proves the same thing. And the thing with Kansas, and this is the reason why I picked Bubba Wallace to advance into the playoffs to the next round. He won last year at this race. He was solid at Darlington in the spring. And again, another great run for him today. He had speed, look for him to be in contention next week. Look for Tyler Reddick to be in contention next week. And we'll see how far it goes. Let me know in the comments below. Did you enjoy the race? What happened to your driver? You know, Kyle Busch is my favorite driver. He was 12 points out. He ends up losing like 2 spots, 1 or 2 spots, but still gains 8 above the cut line. So that's a good day for him. Where did your driver finish? And just let me know below in the comments what you thought about today's race. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. Probably not. I absolutely loved it. And we can only hope that Kansas is just as good. So again, my name is Ryan Peters. This is Stuck in the Catch Fence. We will catch you with some of the news and everything else to prepare for Kansas as we head into the second round of the second race of the round of 16 playoffs. So have a wonderful rest of your holiday weekend. We'll see you next time.